November the 24th. Hope you'll have a fantastic week. Thank you.
Mr. Dixon is going to come forward and introduce our guest.
All right, welcome everybody. We want to welcome our guest visiting Rotarians today. When I call your name, will you please stand and remain standing until we recognize everybody. Becky Ingram, guest of Earl Ingram. Madison Stallworth, Wallace Rotaract member. Keith Boozer, the sponsor for Wallace Rotaract. All right, is there anybody we missed? All right, thank you for visiting with us.
Ms. Stephanie Crow, will you please come forward for Get Past the Draw. All right, we have 2,635 points.
All right, the last three digits are 162.
162. You got it. All right. If I read it right. I can't do what I normally do. Too many people watching. Oh, King of Diamonds. I don't mind. All right, Ms. Pilot, you're going to come forward and make an announcement.
All right, we do have some somewhat preliminary numbers from our white elephant sale. I say that because we do still have some bills out. Those that weren't in attendance that night or have not donated anything or did not turn in anything afterwards, we do send bills out, so those are out. If all the bills are paid, which we have just over 8,500 out, then we will raise approximately $42,700 for the we always are very grateful for anything that we get, and I know I wish Paul were here, but he's out today. If you have not given yet, if you'll remember, we've had a couple of years, not only did we try to kind of change the time of the sale, but then COVID hit, and so we had a couple of years where we were not able to really give anything. So as happy as I am with that 42,700, we have the ability to do more. So if you have not given and plan to give, please think about giving more. If you have given and want to donate more, obviously I will take your money. So please think about that. But thank you for what we did do. I'm very, very grateful. It was a great night. We had a great turnout. And so we look forward to next year. Thank you.
All right, a couple more announcements. Huge thank you, James Ether didn't able to make it today, but James and Jason Rudd, thank you all so much for having us out at the Peanut Festival last week. Great turnout, great time as always. So thank you all. Couple reminders of events coming up. We're getting into the season where a week feels like it goes by in 2 days. So this will sneak up on us real quick. We will have next time we meet. We won't meet next week because of Thanksgiving. The following meeting, we'll have sign-up sheets for bell ringing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I always want to have a good turnout for that. And then also on December 11th, we have our Senior Citizens Luncheon. So mark your calendars for the Senior Citizens Luncheon on December 11th. That's all we have for today. I'm gonna turn it over to our district governor, Mr. Earl Ingram. Y'all, help me welcome Earl.
Thank you, Josh. Well, it's not only appropriate, but it's necessary for me to say that it's a pleasure to be here. And it's an honor to be here in the role that I am as your district governor for this year. You've got past district governors in attendance here. You're familiar with them, and if you will ask them, they will tell you that these club visits are maybe the high point of the year, perhaps next to the end of the district governor year. But so this is number 46 of club visits. Becky, Rotarian, beloved partner of mine for 56 years, has been with me at just about every one of them. And I think Becky would agree with me. For your ears only, isn't the truth. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of good things in 45 clubs. I'm seeing all those good things in this one club, and you are to be commended. Give yourselves a hand, if you would, for being the club that you are. Don't share that, just keep it inside. Then we get down to building love, all those other things. Rotary International invests an awful lot of time, effort, treasure in training up individuals to be the district governor. And although I've been a Rotarian mostly on, a little bit off since 1982, and a member of two clubs, the West Point, Georgia Club and the Troy Club currently, I've got to say that I learned so much more about Rotary in the last year and a half or so, going up this ramp into this role, that the more I learned, the more I heard about the club visits, the more I thought about all the things that I would really like to share with you that I've learned. Sort of like a reformed smoker. You can't get that message out enough. But I know that time is a limit. And so I'm going to limit my remarks today to 4 points. First, I would like to give us a reminder of Rotary, size, scope, and purpose. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about this year Rotary International President's theme. Gordon McAnally, Scottish dental surgeon, an authentic leader, not full of himself, but full of the mission, humorous, and just makes you feel good that an organization like this has found someone like him to lead this year. So he has to create a theme, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We all know that Rotary is about the club. It's not about the district. It's not about the zone. It's not about RI corporate. It's about the club. But hypothetically, if I were a club of one, the Rotary Club of Earl, what might I, in southern Alabama, put some priorities on? That's a point I'd like to spend a little bit of time with. And then finally, I want to leave you with a reminder that we, in the district leadership team, the group, the district governor line, the College of Governors, the past district governors, the committee chairs, we all know that we're here for one reason, and that is to support you at the club level. So, first, a brief refresher, perhaps, about Rotary International today. So today, Rotary International is a global network of 1.4 million neighbors, friends, colleagues, problem solvers, who are members of just over 46,000 clubs that are supported by 530 districts. There are two in this state, as you're aware, South and North Alabama. And those clubs, those Rotarians, those districts are located in 200 countries and geographical areas. That's really quite a footprint. And any organization that size, in order to keep our compasses calibrated, would naturally come up with a vision statement. And although you may have heard this vision statement before, I believe it's worth repeating to remind us something about who we are. And that's, as Rotarians, we see that together we are a world in which people unite, take action to create lasting change around the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. And I think you probably would agree with me that it begins with in ourselves. So who, given those Rotarian values and vision, what we aspire to do, and the size of what we are, who would not want to become a member of such a great organization? And as many members as there are in this greater Dothan area, I believe there are a few more out there that are simply waiting for your invitation. And everything I've learned about Rotary, I would like to share with them, but I can't do that, so let's do it through you in terms of sharing the message of who we are, what we are, and why it's such a grand thing to be a Rotarian. So a little bit about the Rotary International President's theme. Leading into the Rotary International President's Year, starting July 1st, he or she has two tasks, for which they get no help. It's not a multiple choice test presented by staff members. It's something that they have to decide themselves. The first is a theme. What do they want? What theme do they want that will unite Rotarians around the world? Well, the theme this year is create hope in the world. And I'd like to offer some thoughts about why I think this is so significant and so timely. If I were to choose a four-letter word to describe the state of the world today, I think most of you would agree that we could say the world's in a mess. The persistent conflicts in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, 100 million plus people displaced by economic failures, environmental disasters, wars and conflicts. Toxic polarization of political landscapes, not just in the US, but in others, where people in their bubbles can't get out and create civil discourse about how to find a unified way to the kind of life that they want. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which only exacerbates the more than 345 million people today who are living with food insecurity, not being a little bit hungry, but not knowing where the next meal literally is coming from. 345 million people. I would add to that one more point, and that is, at least in my opinion, there's clear evidence of aspects of climate change that are serving as a threat multiplier to international peace and security. For 30 plus years, I worked with Troy University, and most of it dealt with international outreach, either actually being out there or being responsible for it. And then during that time, on one trip to South Asia, I spent a few hours on a bus sharing a seat with a Pakistani general. One bottle of water, he showed me how we could share it in a sanitary way. But we spoke about all kinds of things. During that conversation, I finally felt comfortable to ask him, just outright, what is it with you Pakistanis and Indians up in the Kashmir area? Why can't you figure out how to get along with each other? Everything I see in the news is about you just, you're at each other's throats. Is it religion? He said, well, it is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and India is So the troubling things I think that we see and that we hear in the news can lead us to start to question security, whether it's national security, community security in our communities, even in our families, financial security. And for some people, those who might be a little bit more fragile, that sense of insecurity starts to dominate their thinking, and they start to feel a sense of despair. They don't know how it's going to be tomorrow. They don't know how tomorrow can be better. That sense of despair breeds and triggers desperate acts. Well, despair and hopelessness is not a way of thinking, but a context in which we interpret what we deal with. And I believe that leads many to such a sense of hopelessness and despair that together we've got to figure out a way to reduce that, because that threatens everybody's quality of life. So how bad are things, and really if they're that bad, how can Rotary or any other organization or we as individuals do anything about it? Well, I believe there's room for interventions, and Rotary defines a half a dozen ways, 7 to be precise, that we can intervene to improve the quality of life of people around the world and in our communities. I think we have to have a spirit of optimism. And I think I do. Becky says I'm overly optimistic, but I've come by that optimism, I think, in an honest way. I've had kind of a feathered in life of different careers. I was on active duty in the military, and then another 20 years active in the reserve, Army National Guard and reserves. I worked in industry, and then for 30 years, I also worked with Troy. And of those 26 years in the military, I spent 17 of them as an Army aviator, as a Rotary wing pilot, little fixed wing also. But those years, particularly those early years of flying, I think affected my personality, maybe my character, but certainly my personality, and imbued me with what I would describe as a sense of guarded optimism. So after 17 years of the takeoffs and the landings that you can walk away from equaling each other, you come to believe that things can work out. And in the back of the mind of all Army aviators is not a dread, not a concern, but an awareness that things can go wrong. And when they do, you have to be alert and aware, ready for it. So you can't be complacent. You've got resources, you've got to use them. You've got to act, and you've got to persist. And if you do all that, even when things aren't going swimmingly, things tend to work out. And I think if we, as Rotarians, would take those same words to heart, about being not complacent. In aviation, we say complacency kills. Well, I don't think it necessarily does in our community life, but I think complacency puts our community security at risk. We need to be aware of the resources and develop resources that we can use. And when we see the need to use them, we've got to act. And not just once, but we have to persist to make that lasting change. So all that together, I think, produces the idea, at least in my mind, that creating hope in the world and using the resources that we've got in an optimistic way can make a difference. The thing about creating hope versus despair, hopelessness is a way of viewing the world. Creating hope is behavior, it's action, it's a way of thinking, it's a belief that if I take this step, and then this step, and then that step, things might work out. So creating hope for us is a way to get people to start thinking about how they can get out of their sense of despair, how they can get out of their sense of hopelessness, and advance the quality of their lives and their family, their communities, and broadly around the world. So I mentioned that the Rotary International President-elect has 2 tasks. The first is to create the theme, And for me, spot on. The second task that she or he is expected to do is to create the color pattern for the tie or the scarf, or back in Bob's day, ugly blazers. No choice this time. No blazer issue this time. Yeah, this is a tartan, but that's not really where Gordon went. He turned to his favorite, he says, Scottish artist, and he said, I'd like to make a statement with the color that is chosen to support the theme and the colors that go into the tie and the scarves this year. John Morrison is the man's name. And he came up with one. And like I said, it's not the tartan. It's, imagine this, 5 times larger or 6 times larger as a scarf. Imagine it, if you will, even narrow as a tie. Imagine that I, as a kind of a conservative guy, settled for the pocket hand. I will wear the tie with pride when the time comes, but day in and day out, I don't want to drive down the road glancing out of it. It's not safe for everybody around me. Well, I'm not making fun of the pattern. Let's come back to, he said, I want to make a statement. Gordon said, I want to make a statement. And I think the statement he's made is be bold. And we have to be bold in creating hope. Now, Rotary, through those 7 avenues of areas of focus, sanitation, literacy, entrepreneurship, hygiene, water, the environment, peace and security, through those things, we as Rotarians take steps boldly to make a difference in the world. And at the district, we also have stepped up. We've stepped up very well in serving our communities, as well as engaging in meaningful global grants. We have fashioned in this district a disaster relief committee and effort that will help us when disaster strikes, whether it's on the coast, whether it's in Selma, whether it's up in Lee County. We are engaged in philanthropic and local service projects that are making differences in our communities. Globally, the signature effort of Rotary, as you are well aware, is the End Polio Now campaign. You just participated in the Purple Pinky Donut campaign. Love those calories, didn't you? The wise among you made the donation and said, forego the donuts. At least.
But they missed the pleasure.
But they missed the, okay, pleasure. Now, last year, under past district governor Dale Goodman, you know her, she accomplished something that nobody had ever done before, not even Bruce. And before that, I don't even know if we did it. But she got 100% participation of the clubs in that Purple Pinky Donut campaign. This year, with all that coaxing, coaching, begging, I did everything that Dell said worked. Didn't for me. You participated, thank you. But we were able to make a 10% increase over last year's total donations, almost $50,000. And when you multiply that 7.5 times, you see what we were able in this district to make in terms of contribution in polio now. So I mentioned that Rotary is about the clubs. It's not about the district. It's not about Rotary corporate. If I were the Rotary Club of Earl, living in South Alabama, and I had the opportunity to vote on what my club was going to put its focus on, what priorities at least, I can think of a couple that I would give consideration to based upon the needs of people and communities in South Alabama. So right here in Alabama, we know we have a problem with basic literacy. We are very near the bottom of the scale. We know we have a problem with hunger. 1 out of 4 Alabamians suffers food insecurity. Not I'm a little hungry, but I don't know where that next meal is coming from. Up in Pike County where I live, the number comes up to 32%. Almost a third of Pike County, 32,000, 35,000 people suffer from food insecurity. Most of us enjoy access to clean water and sanitation, but in our westernmost counties, in the Black Belt, we have sanitation conditions that are almost third world, that are third world in some. You're all familiar with J.D. Power quality ratings. You looked at it maybe when you think about new cars, and you're surprised that Chevrolet's up there and so many others that you pay so much for down there. J.D. Power does one on clean and reliable tap water. J.D. Power does. The 2023 survey on quality of clean water, clean and reliable tap water, places the state of Alabama at number 50. We have so many things that we could address, I think. Now, this club of one in South Alabama, I think I would focus on basic literacy. I would focus on basic literacy, not just because it sounds right, and it's a Rotarian kind of thing to do, but I believe that there is a literacy, basic education, health literacy, health outcomes, poverty, crime, economic and community security causal chain. And we can intervene at any one of those points, but if we'll go all the way upstream to literacy, we can make a lasting change. 54% of Alabamians 16 years and older cannot read at the 6th grade level. Now, how much meaningful information to help a family through health issues, to help a person be an informed member of the political body is written at the 5th or 4th grade level. Literacy is an issue. And it's not literacy in the school. The schools get it. Our problem is those whose school years are behind them. What can we do there? So I think that would be my first priority. And I'll add a second priority, and that would be related to mental health, mental well-being. There is, I think, you might agree, an epidemic that is on this side of the horizon now, that for which there is no pill, there is no immunization to either prevent or to cure. And it's spawned by coming out of the COVID years. Generation Alpha, those kids who were just entering school in 2019, 2020, 2021, they didn't have anything. They don't have the basics. Now, even today, 3 years later, they don't have the basics to help them gain as much from school as they need to. And it's not just them. It's also Gen Z, those young professionals who were entering careers in 2019, 2020, 2021. They started off their careers, they started off their understanding of productive organizational life with one oar in the water. Instability, impermanence, working relationships, nothing is getting developed there. The reality is that the suicide rate of those 10 to 24 year olds, 10 to 24 years old in the United States has increased significantly in the last few years. And I could say 5 to 24 years old, okay? So I don't know how to cure this mental health, and I'm speaking of depression, not of psychosis here. I don't know how to cure it. And I don't know what we as Rotarians ought to do about it. But I believe that there's one thing that we can do, and that is to, A, increase our awareness about the problem, and B, have conversations remove the stigma about talking about the taboo of suicide. We've got to do that in our organizations, we've got to do that in our churches, we've got to do that in our families. We've got to get people to address the need for reducing the fragility of people who believe they're at risk. Now, these things that I have been talking about, the RI corporate level or the district or Club of Earl, don't necessarily pertain to you. This club knows what it is to be a Rotarian club. The Rotarians in this club, for the most part, I think, just based upon the success of the club, know what it is to be Rotarian minded, to unite and take action. You do whatever it is that you believe you need to do as a club to support this community and the broader community, and to support outside this community where you see fit. And in doing that, you're going to find that the district has resources and interest in helping you to be successful in that. I think the past district governors here would agree with me when I say that a key part of my role as a district governor is to energize human, financial, and other resources so that at the clubs you can accomplish what you need to accomplish. And we have resources. Assistant governors, we have 11 of them that support the clubs. Yours, James Etheridge, you know him, he's a club member. James has been very helpful, as have other assistant governors in being that line of communication and support between the club leadership and the district leadership. We have committees that are here that are chaired by highly overpaid volunteers. Membership, Foundation, Disaster Relief, RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Everybody aware of that? RILA has been off the table for a few years. It's back this year. A club this size with this much energy probably is going to sponsor, what do you think, Josh? 3, 4? At least 3 10th and 11th graders from this area to participate in the RILA leadership camp up at Camp Asca starting the 29th of February. Many district clubs use the district simplified grants to help them with their service projects. Some absolutely need those grants to do it. Other clubs are able to generate revenues that can help the club do what it wants to without the benefit of those grants. But that is there to help. Training wise, we offer training. The district offers training. The zone offers training for presidents-elect, president nominees, secretary-elects. We have 2 conferences a year where you're able to share and also to network with other clubs to see what they're doing and how they're going about doing it when they're trying to demonstrate service above self in their communities and around the globe. 2 more points. Well, actually, with regard to the conferences, mid-year conference is the 19th and 20th of January. You're going to have the invitation, and I'd like to say the expectation that you all will attend, your current leaders, your incoming leaders, and the theme is going to be telling the story. Each club is going to have the opportunity to set up basically a poster that's going to say, here are projects or a project that is among our points of pride. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. And if we could have a room full of that, if we could have 40 of those in a room, we offer the opportunity for kind of a marketplace of promoting to all clubs the things, the array of opportunities that we have to make a difference in our own communities. So 2 more points. Rotarian values. This is obviously a club that has a culture of caring. The 4-way test is up here. Virtually every club that we have attended or revisited this year has either started or ended the meeting with the 4-way test. And I just imagine if we could put those 4 points in our head, and that was the filter before we said or acted what a difference it would make, in us. And you have a club doing that, and then you have a district of almost 2,000 people doing that. We can really make a difference. But a culture of caring is intentional. That's aspiration. We also have to develop, to go along with that, a culture of giving. You can't make bricks without straw. Now, this club is generous. And for that, everybody that looks in on this club is filled with gratitude about your generosity to the district, to the Rotary Foundation, and to your communities. May I ask, how many Paul Harris Fellows are here today? Wow. How about Paul Harris Society members? Almost wow. Paul Harris Society is a person who commits. You don't go to jail if you don't make it, but commits $1,000 a year to the annual fund. Now, the annual fund is important for those who are newer and haven't heard this before, and for those who have forgotten it maybe, I mentioned the district simplified grants. So this year we had about $45,000 to share among the 25 clubs that held their hands up and said, we need some help. Now that $45,000 came as a result of 3 years ago, this district collectively contributing $90,000 to the annual fund. That $90,000 to the annual fund turned into $45,000 back to this district for us to distribute. We need the contributions to the annual. It's enlightened self-interest. If we make contributions to the annual fund, 3 years later, half of it comes back and we're able to use it to push the initiatives that we have in our own communities and through our own clubs. But again, you recognize that, and for that, I'm certainly grateful. Every Rotarian every year doesn't need to be a slogan. And yet it'd be great if it were $100 every Rotarian every year to the annual fund. But every Rotarian every year, something will make a difference, not just to the club's reputation, but also to the communities in which we serve. So let me close at this point. I would like to ask you, though, to give me some feedback. And it doesn't reflect on the past district governors who are here. But what is it that you would wish that the district leadership, as the district leadership, we would start doing? What is it that you might wish we would stop doing? Feedback. Please. I know it's not perfect, because I'm told that after I get away from the mic. Any thoughts, concerns, misgivings, suggestions, things that the district could do to help a club such as Dothan, or in your minds maybe even help something that you see is working for you, but you don't see how it could work for a smaller club? We've got clubs as small as 5 members. Okay, they do meet at Callahan's Irish Social Club, and they are productive. Any thoughts, concerns, misgivings, anything to take back? Well, again, yes, sir.
Let's recognize the clubs in your district or at large who are actually physically doing something, making contributions, visiting schools or hospitals or places of some kind, who are really doing what Rotarians are supposed to be doing. Let's recognize those people, those clubs. It may be a stipend, it may not be. It just may be a point of recognition.
That's, if we don't recognize good things that are happening, people are not going to behave in the way that we would like them if there's a Rotarian way of behaving. Now, we do have ways of dealing with that. You get to set goals. Josh, you get to set up to 26 goals. And if you accomplish 13 of them, to include projects such as that you've alluded to, or philanthropic contributions, you would be recognized with a Rotary citation. But the district also recognizes those clubs that they recognize them for service, they recognize them for contributions to the foundation. But I think, in a finer point, in response to that. This notion of the mid-year conference, where we have a room with those posters, where clubs are able to show what they are doing. Some clubs don't have the resources to do what other clubs do, but they make the best use of their resources. And other clubs that are in the same boat need to know, how can we do something with not too much straw to put in the bricks? But your point is well taken, that we have to recognize those who make a difference. Thank you. Other thoughts, concerns, suggestions? Well, it's been an absolute pleasure for me, and I'm sure for Becky as well, to have been with you today. Seeing a club like this and the way you all act as Rotarians really gives me a good feeling when I'm able to say that I'm a Rotarian. So thank you very much.
Thank you, District Governor Earl. As mentioned before, next week we will not meet. Hope everybody has fun visiting with family and friends. Don't eat too much turkey and dressing. I want to say a special thanks to visitors today, and also to those that helped put on the program. Reminder for those that are on the board, we will have a board meeting immediately following this meeting. With that, please stand for the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do,
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
shine the light of Rotary.